Okay, this is a story that is what I heard. Um, I think that's one of the pastors right there in handcuffs. Two Toledo pastors accused of sex trafficking back in court. So yeah. It's happened in Toledo. Um, the first one. Two Toledo pastors were back in U.S. District Court for a pre-trial hearing made necessary by charges filed against Laura Lloyd Jenkins, former Lucas County administrator and wife of one of the pastors, in connection to sex trafficking allegations. So they're throwing Cordell Jenkins, they're throwing the wife involved. They're throwing the wife in there as well. Stupid. Because the second superseding indictment was filed when Mrs. Lloyd Jenkins, 43, was charged in December with obstructing a sex trafficking investigation and making a false statement. Reverend Anthony Haynes, 38 years old, and Reverend Kenneth Butler, 37, and Reverend Cordell Jenkins, 47, all had to be arraigned on new charges, which were not substantially altered from the initial charges that the three men conspired to sex traffic children. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm probably gonna go ahead and tweet this. You can go ahead and read it for yourself. Mr. Haynes and Mr. Butler pleaded both of them pleaded not guilty to charges against them, maintaining the same plea they made when the initial charges were filed against them in the sex trafficking case. An FBI inquiry last spring led to the indictment of three men for sex trafficking of children and to the horror of people who have gone to Sunday school as children, production of child pornography. Mr. Jenkins, Mrs. Lloyd Jenkins' husband, was not in court Monday because of what U.S. District Court Judge Zach Zohari called a transportation glitch. Mr. Jenkins has been held at the Northeast Ohio Correctional Center at Youngstown since May. He will be arraigned, January of 2018. It says, he was arraigned, it says that he was arraigned, he said that he was arraigned, yeah, he's been arraigned, yeah, he's been arraigned, and it's July of 2018. This is published Um, Another pretrial hearing was scheduled for March 27th to allow attorneys to continue reviewing discovery. A trial date could be set at that hearing. Michael Freeman, an assistant U.S. attorney, again told the court that if the men are convicted, prosecutors will recommend sentences of life in prison. These are supposed to be men of God, but they child molesters, and this is what's happening, and this is what these pimp pastors are up to. And here's another story. Shackled and dressed in different colored jumpsuits, 3 Toledo pastors appeared Tuesday in U.S. District Court to answer accusations they acted together to entice underage girls to engage in sex for money. The Reverend Cordell Jenkins, 47, the Reverend Anthony Haynes, 38 years old, and Kenneth Butler, 37, were named in an 11-count superseding indictment handed up Tuesday by a federal grand jury, charging them with conspiracy to sex traffic children. All 3 of them pleaded not guilty to the charges. That's the answer. Michael Freeman, an assistant U.S. attorney, told the court that if the men are convicted, prosecutors will recommend sentences of life in prison. These are wolves in sheep's clothing. Jesus Christ told me to beware of those. Wolves in sheep's clothing. That's what these men are. These 3 men violated the trust of these children and the communities they purported to serve. U.S. Attorney Justin E. Herdman said in a news release, "We're grateful for the courage of the victims and the dedication of our law enforcement personnel in bringing these men to justice." I mean, okay. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, a girl who was just 14 when the conspiracy began in 2014 was sexually assaulted by all 3 men. Some of the sex acts are believed to have taken place at Greater Life Christian Center, where Mr. Haynes was pastor. What the hell is going on with you people? That is a child of God, not whore. Jesus. Between 2014 and 2017, Mr. Haynes groomed and exploited a girl, used his cell phone to record the sexual assaults, routinely gave her money afterward, and told her not to tell anyone because it would ruin his family and his church. Prosecutors say. Prosecutors. Okay, Mr. Haynes is also accused. Mr. Haynes also is accused of introducing the teen to other men, including Mr. Jenkins, for sexual activity and for sharing pornographic photographs and videos. That right there is that these creeps masquerading as pastors is what are doing. That child pornography is a felony. I don't care what the fuck you say. Child pornography is a felony. Prosecutors allege that between December 2016 and March 2017, Mr. Jenkins sexually exploited a girl at his West Toledo home on Barrington Drive, at his office at Abundant Life Ministries, where he was a pastor, and at a motel in Toledo. Prosecutors say he paid her for sex, usually between $100 to $300, referring to the payment as hush money. Keep it on the hush. Don't say nothing. Ain't no talking while I'm doing my thing. Have you ever heard of Ludacris' song "Keep It on the Hush"? Well, that's exactly that. That's exactly what's going on in that song. Mr. Haynes is like Mr. Haynes, he is accused of recording some of the interactions with his cell phone, a device that I'm using to record this as I speak. I'm gonna put a link into the description box below so you can check this shit out yourself. Google search it. It's not really that hard. It's not really that hard to find. It's not really that hard to find It's not really that hard to find information on these pastors. Mr. Butler is charged with trafficking a third underage girl between 2015 and March 2017. According to court documents, the girl told investigators she met Mr. Butler at Mr. Haynes' church when she was 15, and he would give her rides to the church in the Detroit area. And this is going on in the black community, people. My brother and I have been in foster care, and my brother was molested. And the funny thing about it is that a lot of it is that this person that molested my brother, I'm not gonna mention his name. He shared the same skin tone as me. My brother and I are white, and the creep that molested my brother, he's white. He's white. The perpetrator's white as well. So it's both whites and black. It's going on in the white community, mostly, and it's going on in the black community as well. The girl said she had sex with Mr. Butler in his car twice, and he gave her money once. He later reported told her to lie to the FBI when she was questioned about him. Pedophiles do the. I know a thing or two about pedophiles because they do these things. They do. Child molesters do these things. The girl, Both Mr. Haynes and Mr. Butler are charged with obstruction of sex trafficking investigation. For basically telling her to lie to the FBI if she was questioned about him. Mr. Haynes for allegedly trying to destroy electronic evidence of sex trafficking, and Mr. Butler for instructing another person to lie and lying himself to law enforcement about his involvement. Here's a little tidbit. Here's a little technical information there. What it amounts to, technical information. At the arraignment Tuesday, U.S. District Court Judge Zach Zahari, or whatever his name is, asked each of the men to tell him a little bit about their educational and work backgrounds. That was what amounts to technical information. That's not necessary for the case. Mr. Haynes described himself as a former pastor, while Mr. Jenkins said he had pastored full-time for the past 23 years. I'm wondering how many children he's done this to in the past 23 years that he was pastor. Mr. Butler, pastor of Kingdom Encounter Family Worship Center, did not mention serving as a pastor, but said he worked in a variety of security jobs, most recently as a security guard for Mercy Health St. Vincent Medical Center, Mercy Health St. Anne Hospital, and Mercy Health St. Charles Hospital. The creep was molesting children, and this guy had a variety of security jobs. In addition to the conspiracy charge, Mr. Butler, who was not named in the original indictment filed in April against Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Haynes, was indicted on 2 counts of sex trafficking of children and 1 count of obstruction of a sex trafficking investigation. And of course, he was a security officer at, 1, 2, 3 different hospitals. Not 1, not 2, but 3 different health centers. 3 different hospitals. Judge Zahari asked what was new or different about in the superseding indictment that was not laid out in the original indictment. What's going on with these people? Americans have been known, and I'm not talking about race or ethnic group here, but I'm talking about us as a nation. We tend to, we tend to place our trust wholesale in everybody and anybody and everybody. We place our trust wholesale. Wholesale. We as Americans tend to trust these pastors wholesale. I mean, these people are sitting up there playing church, playing with the Bible. The Bible says, if you teach the Bible, you're going to end up coming under stricter judgment than those who are never taught. Fear no man but God is what it says in the Bible. Mr. Freeman said that the superseding indictment adds Mr. Butler as a defendant and for the first time alleges that beginning in June 2014, the three men conspired and agreed with each other to knowingly recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, maintain, patronize, and solicit a girl who was 14 years old at the time, as well as other minors, to engage in paid sex acts. It didn't say nothing about the parents of the girls. It didn't say nothing about the parents of these girls. Where were the parents? Oh, I know where the parents are. I know where the parents are. The parents probably trusted these creeps wholesale. This is a trend going on in America, people. Americans trusting these creeps wholesale. It's going on in the Catholic Church. No, it's going on in the Catholic Church even as we speak. And I already had some news story. I have a news story coming up about this priest that's serving back-to-back life sentences now for the sex crimes he committed at Our Lady Queen of Heaven. Judge Zahari scheduled a January 8th status hearing for all three co-defendants who are to remain in custody. Okay. Lauren Zanner, one of the attorneys representing Mr. Jenkins, declined to comment on the new indictment, but said the case is moving forward. Okay. Here's the quote. We are waiting for the new discovery from the district attorney, which we will review, meet with our client, and then decide our next steps, he said afterward. Holy fucking shit. So they're fooling with children. Interfering with a sex act, a sex trafficking investigation, and for making child pornography. And yet, yet Americans seem to trust anybody and everybody wholesale. It happens a lot in the Catholic Church. Mark Anthony Broussard. It happens a lot in the. Mark Anthony Broussard is a prime example of a priest who the parishioners trusted wholesale. To my fellow Americans in Lake Charles and around the country, what does why is it that you trust, that you put your trust, that you're entrusting, yet you're putting your trust wholesale into these pastors? I don't get it. It's an enigma to me. Oh, they've done it all right. Because they really, they were, they really outdone themselves. They really outdone themselves this time. But it's just, it's a creep. And once again, American families seem to trust anybody and everybody wholesale, regardless of whether or not they're predators. Sad. Click like if you like this video. That really helps. And I'll see you guys next time. And be careful. Be careful with these church houses, especially if you're a Roman Catholic like me. who has stopped mind you has stopped going to mass, because it happens, and black people, please be careful on when dealing with these creeps that are that are perched in your community.